today. Those are two really important high impact teaching practices. There's a history behind them. There's a lot of data showing that these two educational practices are incredibly valuable and are worth seeking out as you're moving through your undergraduate education. So now I'm going to spend a little bit of time diving deeper into the community engaged learning part, and then the second part of this talk, I'll dive a little bit deeper into internships and how you can access both of these resources during your undergraduate schooling here. So community engaged learning is an official designation, kind of like you would see an attribute listed on the course catalog for any of your gen ed classes, like creative writing or quantitative math class. There's a CEL attribute that is labeling different classes in the course catalog. That means any of those classes have undergone a rigorous review process to make sure that they have these three components robustly included in the teaching of the class. And I actually sit at the head of the committee that approves these designation requests across campus. And I can tell you we have a really big, robust list of classes that you can seek out if this is something that's interesting to you. So the first key component of community engaged learning classes, those classes that have this CEL attribute, is that it incorporates community engagement into the learning process. You basically learn by doing. So there are learning objectives always identified for a course, and some of those learning objectives are taught by working in an authentic out of classroom setting where you can apply the theory and really see how it works in the real world. Often it's with something like an agency or a nonprofit organization or maybe a freestanding health clinic. Sometimes it's even with an entity on campus that also partners with those that are off campus. So what do you need to learn in that class? How can a community partner's mission help you to learn those particular topics within the class? And then the flip side of that is that it's not just all about student learning, it's about meeting the needs of the community, whatever that community member might be. So here's a great example for this key component of a community engaged learning course. We have microbiology offered in the fall. It's a CEL section for that class. Students are learning about microbes, right? Many of those microbes are STIs, sexually transmitted infections. How can we help students learn more about that, the prevention, the biology of it? Well, we have them partner with the Utah AIDS Foundation, and they help the AIDS Foundation help spread the word about these STIs in the community, how to prevent them, how to talk about them, how to even test for them. And it really gives this rich, robust, deep learning experience about microbes while also helping the community partner to achieve its very important mission. Just one example of how that's an integral component of community engaged learning. And then finally, reflection is the third component of community engaged learning. And it might sound kind of fuzzy or soft to say that this is a robust part of your academic learning, but it's really important that we all take a step back once in a while and think about what our assumptions, our beliefs, opinions, and values are about either a particular topic or field or even a population we might be working with. It also gives us a time to take a step back and think about, okay, what have I achieved so far? What do I still need to work on? How can I make sure that I achieve my learning objectives while also achieving the objectives of the community partner I'm working with? And then finally, taking the time, the formal classroom provided time to reflect on the work you're doing, it kind of flexes your empathy and introspection muscles. If you practice this reflecting, you then can incorporate it more easily into your professional life. And reflection during your professional life is incredibly important too. What are you bringing to the table each day in your career? How can you improve? What are your strengths and weaknesses? What's the overall mission? These are things you think about in the context of reflection. And I want to give a shout out too to this idea of understanding the public purpose of your discipline. Why are you all in college? Why are you majoring in what you're majoring in? What specific issues attracted you to that? and how are you going to contribute to those, the problems related to those questions within your field. That is a really important part of reflecting in a community-engaged learning process on the public purpose of chemistry, physics, geology, math, biology, whatever it is you're studying. So when I talk about community engagement, it's also about research. It's not just about what you're doing in a classroom and what you're doing with a community partner to help foster their mission. There are also opportunities to do research within a community to address the question that a community has about itself, how it's functioning. So it's scholarship and community engaged learning together that really I'm talking about today. And the way I view this community engaged learning program is as a drawbridge. So you can see this nice little visual I have here with CEL over the drawbridge. I find this to be a profound way for surrounding communities, wherever you live, in our case it's the Salt Lake Valley, to connect with this geographically isolated, topographically isolated institution sitting up on a hill on the East Bench away from the rest of the communities of the Valley. It's a figurative connection to this geographic separation as well as kind of the figurative separation between the academic institution and the communities around us. And here's what I've found for sure when we talk about this with students and faculty who have been doing this for a long time with community partners. If you distill what you've learned in class and then apply it in these authentic hands-on settings, you understand the class material better, you understand how it applies to whatever is interesting you in the world, and it makes your education overall more meaningful. Students tend to get a greater sense of purpose by connecting with these community engaged opportunities. And on top of that, it connects with your professional aspirations, hopefully, as well, and creates connections for you there. It's worth being very clear that we who are affiliated with the university are incredibly privileged. We have access to this amazing array of resources that the University of Utah affords us, whether it's expensive research databases that we can access with our UID at the Marriott Library, or actual physical materials, tools, computers, etc. Sorry if you bring my dogs in the background, the mailman has arrived. But let's share those resources with the community at large. That's what we're supposed to be doing at the University of Utah, is solving the big problems of our day, whatever that might be in whatever field you're in. Why else are we all here, right? If not to be part of the solution. So here's my motto in CEL: be the drawbridge, right? Be the person that steps up and says, yes, I want to figure out what the problems are. I want to be part of the solution. I want to apply what I'm learning in college and inspire others to be involved and really address these issues head on. So that's my spiel, but I don't want you to just hear from me today about engaging with your community. I want you to hear about some students as well. So I have quotes from 3 different students here. I'm just going to read out and then comment on them. And I hope someday to hear from you as well, having taken a future CEL course. But here's the first student about why engaging with community during a class had been so powerful. So it wasn't necessarily anything I learned, but it was the sense of focus I got from participating. It helped to remind me why I wanted to learn about science in the first place. It was no longer just about a grade or trying to beat the curve to get a good score for grad school. It was about learning the material so that I can share my knowledge with others. Absolutely. Get out of your head. It's not about getting an A. It's about being part of the solution. So I love that conclusion. And then here's another one. I think that the community engaged learning program is an essential component to applied science. It was very rewarding for me. It gave me the opportunity to get my foot in the door with the U.S. Forest Service, the local office, and I was able to meet the right people to help me understand the departments within the Forest Service. So yeah, really getting a better understanding of potential employers, how an agency, a complicated national agency is set up. And this student ended up actually being offered a full-time job after this community engaged learning experience. The second stepping stone was an internship, a 6-month internship, and then a full-time job. So the student ran the gamut by starting with community engaged learning in one of my biology classes. And then finally, a third student who said, overall, I think the CEL program has made this last semester my favorite one so far. It helped me grasp some of the more challenging material in biochemistry, to be able to explain certain concepts to students who are just starting to learn the basics of biochemistry. I had to be able to have such an understanding of the subject that I was able to summarize the sometimes lengthy and complex reactions into something a seventh grader can understand and relate to. The only regret I have is not being able to participate in even more of the volunteer options made available. Right, so yes, distilling that information really makes you understand it if you have to then teach it or communicate it to someone else. So some really solid reasons why you should seek out ways to engage with community during your undergraduate education. All right. So that's kind of my overarching review of the background and the value of community engagement. I want to talk a little bit about the classes you can take. I'll start with the College of Science because that's where I'm embedded. You'll notice right away that the 5 CEL designated courses in the College of Science are all biology, but I welcome most everyone to these. Several of them do not have prerequisites, and they are enriched with students who aren't just majoring in biology, but come from any different discipline. I teach conservation biology here. It's in the spring, and I want to actively recruit people who are not in the fields of science even to these classes, but we need economists and pre-law and art and communication majors, as well as our science focused majors, to be in the conversation with conservation biology. And then in the fall, we also have global environmental issues. Those are kind of obvious, right? We can think of a lot of nonprofit organizations that are focused on environmental and conservation work. But then we also offer biochemistry and microbiology, a little bit more technical, a little bit more analytical classes, but that we actually find students really feeling enriched when they can engage with community members, whether it's with a health clinic or with an elementary school or high school. And then entomology is the 5th CEL designated class in biology in the College of Science. We find that generally the most hated group of organisms on Earth are insects, and insects are deeply imperiled. There's massive declines in their numbers around the globe, and so we really want to expand the conversation that the public has about insects. So a great way to do that is CEL in entomology. If you want to know any more about any of those classes, do please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. But those aren't the only CEL courses offered on campus. Across the University of Utah, we have over 200 community engaged learning designated classes. You can search by that attribute in the course catalog. 130 plus different faculty members teaching in 56 departments, 14 schools and colleges. They're everywhere, just look for them. Last year, about 4,700 different students were enrolled in these CEL classes, and the impact they have is incredible. A wide array of research and problem solved and resources provided and conversations had with a huge number of community partners. New this year, also, if you're really passionate about this and maybe you have a focus, you can get a certificate in community engagement. You can pursue that. It's a 21 credit program. If you need more information on that, please let me know. It's brand new and we're excited to get some students enrolled in that. Some great quotes, additional quotes from students in CEL classes, and I love them, so I'm going to share them with you. Overall, being part of community engaged learning really made me more aware of issues that are going on around me, issues that I never knew existed. Expanding your horizons. Yes, you might be learning about biochemistry, but do you understand about the STEM access that the public school system is working with? A good way to learn about that is through CEL. And then I think CEL is what turns you from someone who's interested in biology, and you can plug in any field there, into someone who is a biologist. And it'll let you do things that inspired you to major in biology in the first place. Yes, it expands your dedication, your sense of meaning, your sense of empowerment to really be contributing to society within your chosen field.